Should the government be in the business of recognizing marriages, legalizing marriage, in your view?
Well, they shouldn't license them. For millennia, and marriage is an institution that's existed for millennia, there was no government licensing of marriage. You held yourself out as married, the community recognized you as such, and you proceeded on your way. And then as the common law developed, you would organize your rights along certain presumptions about property and contract and what happens if someone dies and the kids and things like this. And along came states in the United States fairly recently in the grand scheme of humanity, about 150, 180 years ago, and started registration and licensing of marriage. And I think whatever reasons were there at that time, I don't think at this point we need to be doing, the government needs to be doing that. I think we can definitely revert to the common law of property and contract.
But government does now recognize marriages state by state, and for millennia, at least in this country, or for the last couple of hundred years, it's been defined as a man and a woman. Now the Supreme Court, as you know, has ruled that same-sex marriages have to be recognized as well. You support that?
Right. The question that has to be asked isn't who defines marriage, but does the state, after the 14th Amendment with the Equal Protection Clause, does the state have a valid, a sufficient enough justification for drawing its licensing rule to include or apply to opposite-sex couples, but not same-sex? And over the course of many years of litigation, states have had the opportunity to present whatever reasons, whether it be child rearing or tradition or facilitating certain types of contractual arrangements, things like this, and these have been found wanting. The number one reason basically is that providing the licenses to same-sex couples doesn't in any way detract from opposite-sex couples being married or enjoying the fruits and responsibilities of the institution.
Now, there are a lot of folks out there who may disagree with you on believing that the government should have been recognizing same-sex marriages, but I think they may be surprised to learn that you're also somebody who still says religious freedom should be allowed in this country, and that individuals or businesses who, a photographer, a bakery, that don't want to help be a part of a same-sex wedding should have the right to say, I don't want to be a part of it. Why is that something that most liberals have a hard time coming to that conclusion?
I think both conservatives and progressives have trouble with the distinction between state action and private action. When the government acts, it is bound in all sorts of ways to not violate our rights, to treat us all equally, all of these restrictions. And that's including marriage licensing or any other type of licensing for that matter. When private individuals act, whether alone, in groups, as businesses, as nonprofits, private, non-governmental action, there it's the burden is again on the government for what is its justification for forcing them for limiting their freedom in some way. So oftentimes the Jim Crow South is brought up. That's really an anomalous situation whereby the government itself propped up segregation and indeed forced businesses not to serve black people, for example.
They were the ones putting up signs saying whites only, right?
A lot of businesses were bringing test cases saying we would like to expand our clientele and serve black people, and the government, sometimes with laws straight out, sometimes with policemen who kind of in their spare time were acting as Klansmen and things like this. It was very much a state propped up regime, and also there was monopoly power involved. So for example, if a black family traveling through the South wasn't served, couldn't find a place to eat or a place to stay, that's a problem. With same-sex weddings, take the instance of the Albuquerque wedding photographer. There are over 100 wedding photographers in the Albuquerque area. If this one doesn't want to serve you, you can go across the street. There's no reason to bring in the heavy hand of state to restrict or compel those private individuals in terms of how they run their businesses.
Well, I mean, you've written, I think, why would you ask a Jewish organization or a Jewish baker to produce something for a Nazi rally, right? I mean, these things kind of all go together.
Or gay bakers to produce things for fundamentalist Christians that are against same-sex marriage or against other things. I mean, it's kind of a live and let live sort of situation. This is why I'm a classical liberal and support both the government treating people equally in terms of marriage licensing and the government letting people have maximal liberty in terms of how they conduct their affairs.
Being where we are today, but we've had the court rule the way it did, we've had RFRA laws at the state level get thrown out in some cases or not applied. What do we do from here for those who are concerned about religious freedom considering the growth of the federal government and the administrative state?
Well, you have to push back on the federal government in all its forms. And I see some inconsistency from conservatives who want to use the government towards their ends. And that's problematic because then whether the government is doing good things depends on who's elected to it or which bureaucrats are appointed to it. I think the way to minimize social clashes and minimize these conflicts, whether it be religious or otherwise, over values, is to reduce the size and scope of government in general and let different people live their lives however they want.
That's probably something many conservatives and libertarians can agree on.
I hope so.